Hello guys, my name is Amit Sani and I welcome you in this daily Hindu announced video in the morning. These videos come in the evening, the MCQ lessons they come. So important insights we are getting every day on all the important issues like the Kashmir issue. It is so huge. You see, it is a kind of information for us. It is a kind of a news for us that something happened in a part of a country. So we will take that information in that way. But you see the experts, they see all the angles, they see the consequences, they see the issues attached with it, they see the possibilities in the future, they see the constitutionality, they see the legality of that issue, and they know that governments tend to be dominating in their arguments, in their decision making. So always a check is very much important, because as I was telling you yesterday, the same line is written here in the article today by Gautam Bhatia, that absolute power corrupts absolutely. So there must be a check. So all the angles they are finding there. It doesn't matter that what an average person thinks about that, but what the expert thinks about that, that's extremely important, because the mediocre information sources, the social media and these committed media houses, they do not give the right knowledge about that issue. They do not discuss those important angles. They do not discuss the possibilities which can be very, very dangerous in the future. So that's why all important angles are coming on a daily basis, and for the last 1 month continuously these issues are coming and we are discussing them in a detailed way. So 12th of September it is, morning lessons are important, and the evening lesson MCQ lessons, please do attend them. And Pocket News app is trending on Google Play. You can download that. Regarding these courses, the description is given below the video, and all these numbers are there. You can call on them, and the chat section is available there on the website. This is the Facebook group where you will find the PDF, and the Telegram channel's link you will also find there. You can follow me on Instagram too, and these are some words. Now, first article regarding a particular angle in the Kashmir issue. Here they are talking about the court's role here. You see, first he's talking about the decision making and the a particular decorum which was disturbed during the emergency period in 1975 and 76 and that period. So there the hollowness of Supreme Court's position was revealed there, and that habeas corpus judgment became much highlighted issue, and a lot of things were revealed, that how the murder of dissent that happened at that time. Now in this Kashmir issue, the same habeas corpus issue is important, because you see the communication lockdown is there, and repeatedly all these experts are saying that the way they have put the country in a celebratory mode, and the way they are portraying a particular image, they say that it's all normal, it's all great, and the things are going in a smooth way, and there are no problems. Then why there is communication lockdown? It looks like that the case is going on in a court, and one party reaches there and they say that this is all something, this is our stand, and this is all, and the other party is a corrupt one, the other party is the wrong one, and they are the real culprits, and you do not call the other party there. You do not listen that argument. You listen to one argument only, and you give the judgment there. So this is how the media houses are giving this judgment, and that's the real problem. Why this blockade is there? If things are normal, so there are security reasons for sure, and the Deshbhakti issue is certainly attached with it. So nobody can say anything about that. But you see, the experts will say all these things, because there will be future, there will be people who will be discussing about these past decisions and the discussions, and at that day the people who are not propagating right information, who are not discussing these things in a right way, in a proper scale of justice, and if somebody is standing there with justice or injustice, that will be scrutinized there. So the experts, they have this responsibility to tell the nation about all the angles, and the nation would have to decide about those things. But these informations must be available, which are nowhere there. So that's why the Hindu is on this mission, that it will tell all the important angles, and on daily basis these things are coming. Here the habeas corpus issue, you see, it is a writ jurisdiction is there only with the High Court and Supreme Court. Habeas corpus is first among them, means to have the body of. Habeas corpus means to have the body of, means if somebody has kidnapped someone, somebody has subjugated someone, they have put somebody under some kind of restriction or in some kind of cage, then that person cannot be kept there in restriction, because court will demand his presence there, that bring that person to us and we will decide whether the detention is legal or illegal, and it can be there by the authorities or any private person. So that's why here, when the communication lockdown is there and the political leaders are under house arrest and many other people are reportedly arrested, and they may be there outside Jammu Kashmir's jail also. So these things are extremely problematic, and only the Indian media is talking about a different story. They are portraying a very beautiful image, but other media houses from rest of the world, they are telling a different story. All the institutional heads and all, like the Antonio Guterres yesterday said that both parties, India and Pakistan, they have to sit down there and they need to solve this issue, and the Kashmiris, their concerns are important. But you see, one thing is apparent: this was a important situation, very complex situation, and it's a great responsibility of the state of this country. But a huge population, means the numbers are in crores, their concerns are important. These are people, so people's concerns are important, and at least the communication must be there. Whatever decision making is there, that is crucial, but the communication lockdown should not be there. You cannot frustrate the people. That's the allegation all the experts are putting there, and that's why they say that habeas corpus would be applicable there. And here the court's judgments, which are in a way biased towards the government's motives, and they have given all the exemptions to the government to explain those cases, to give this assurance and all, and it's a kind of a blind belief on the executive there, that whatever decision making is there, that is all upright. But you see, the question is that should we believe the government blindly over some issue, and it's a security issue, then it is justified. But you see, on the other side, there are huge concerns, and extremely problematic thing it can be if some kind of a wrong intention is going on. If something is arbitrary and unilateral, then this can be devastating. And the bigger problem is that, what about the future? If these things are going to be repeated, then in other parts of the country there can be repetitions, and first time something is happening, that is the attack on federalism. That is unprecedented and dangerous, and that is why these issues are so concerning, that instead of knowing that it's a security situation, it's a very unique state, many angles are being discussed here, because there are very huge possible dangers attached with it. Because we all know that power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So you cannot say that all the saints are sitting there who are running the governments. You cannot say that, and you cannot also say that those people are corrupt and those are having wrong intentions. You cannot say that. So the bottom line is that we have to go with the constitutional way. We have to scrutinize and evaluate all this situation. We have to analyze the situation on the basis of legality and on the basis of possible problems, and all things must be cleared here. And that's why the one thing that is the most problematic thing, that is the communication lockdown. Why that thing is there means at least the reporting can be there, and some issues are really unsettled and frustration is rising. Maybe some people or maybe the maximum number of people, they were there with the Indian state, but today they do not look so, because the kind of frustration levels which are there, that can make any society or any population go insane. If those were sane in the starting, but they may go insane, because this kind of frustration is extremely dangerous. So some explanation is needed there, and some breathing must be allowed there, because this is something where one thing is applied. Suppose something wrong is going on anywhere in this country, or maybe anywhere in this world, then those people, how do they express themselves? Because You cannot say that one party is perfect and that you must take as sacrosanct, and one party is totally justified. You cannot say that. There are no black and whites, there are shades of gray. So you cannot say that somebody is taking a decision about some people that is perfect one, when some suspicions are lying there, and at least the scrutiny must be there. And this is the scrutiny that is happening for the last 1 month in the Hindu newspaper. So that's why it's a different situation. And as I told you, mediocre sources, do not go by that, because what experts think about a matter, that is important, because the normal people, they do not know, and they are dependent on these popular mediocre sources, and there can be many intentions, and the nexuses are well acknowledged between the political parties and the media houses. So we cannot guarantee their uprightness, their intentions and their motives. We cannot be sure of those things, but one thing that we are sure, that we have a constitution and there are ways, and all possible conditions can be handled with the constitutional ways. So the interpretation and the fact collection, that thing is extremely important here. So getting the maximum knowledge about a subject is very important. It doesn't matter what some people say. Even in these analysis videos, some people will say a Pakistani or some Congressy or something, any kind of labeling can be there, but the responsibility of all the experts is there, that they are fulfilling, because this world, this country, everywhere, they have seen in the history that many huge things were there, and their meanings were exposed later, but those situations would have been saved if the proper scrutiny was there on time. So that is why this is the ultimate responsibility, because about these huge decisions, there can be great outcomes, so those are welcomed, and the great outcomes and the positive outcomes will not be affected by these scrutinies. But if something is really problematic and the possible dangers are attached with some decision making, then this is the need of the hour. So that's why they are discussing those issues. Otherwise all are very much well discussed things and all, and the writ issue is given today. Okay, means the court's working must be based on the constitutional values, and you cannot exempt the government in everything. And you see, even in the emergency time, some court decisions and some court rulings were exposed later, and those were not according to the constitutional provisions and the constitutional ethos and values. So here court has a huge responsibility. Exemptions should be given to the government, but these true situations should also be considered there. So according to the writer, this perversion of this habeas corpus writ is going on, and that's really problematic, because the next hearing date is 16th of September, and by that date more than 40 days would be passed, and for 40 days if you put a blockade on a huge population, the entire population there, then it will bring some problematic things there, and for sure some huge problems we may face in the future from the Kashmir's side. So that's why the court has a huge responsibility, and it is giving time to the government, but some things are here which are considerable. Nobody is saying that revert this decision or do something like that, but the communication lockdown is really problematic, and they are not allowing any other news agencies and their own favorite news people, they are allowed there. That's really problematic, because the picture that they are showing, no one else is showing that kind of picture, and huge concerns are there. Okay, and the care about the future is the most important thing. Means these things can be misused in the future, because the Deshbhakti phenomena which is attached there, that is really dangerous, because that is something as a steroid, and steroids are used in some rare conditions. But if you use steroids in all the conditions, then the impact of steroid, that also goes away. Now next article, R.K. Raghavan's article, a former CBI director, he is showing us a different angle there. Normally CBI is criticized a lot, and the image is really tarnished, and in the last 3-4 decades many issues are there, and we all know it's a caged parrot. Its working is like a caged parrot because they do not have many securities. They do not have that capability to protect their professionalism. Many issues are there. The highest kind of drama we saw last year, and that tells us that many issues are unsolved there. And Lokpal also tried to solve some issues, but all problems are not managed, and still the autonomy issues are there, and the professionalism is under a lot of question. But the R.K. Raghavan tells a story of CBI's working and what kind of pressures are there and the problematic things. He says that hugely contentious times are there, and especially in the context of Chidambaram's issue, he is talking there. So we know that when politicians, they are very much powerful, they are hugely influential, then things get complexed. You see, the rich people and the influential people, their cases are considered on a regular basis, and they can give their bail applications and all, and they are heard. And these hi-fi lawyers and the rich lawyers, and you may say that who have a lot of influence there on the system there. So comparatively, if we see, then they are in a better position, and their cases are heard. So that's why there are some investigating agencies are involved, like the ED and the CBI and all, but their working becomes questionable because they face pressures from both the sides. There is public pressure which demands a proper investigation and the proper result there, and there is a pressure from executive too. That's practically there, and we should not hesitate to say these kind of things, and because these things are well mentioned there in recommendations and in some problems there, and many committees have said about these things. Even the directors, they have said about these things. So the executive pressure is there and the public pressure is there. Executive's issue is something like that we know governments, political parties, they behave in an opportunistic way many times. So it looks like that sometimes they do not want the proper output there, the proper resolution there. They put these things in a way that will suit their politics. So sometimes compromises we see, and sometimes we see the results there, but in the end, the bodies, the investigative agencies, they get their image tarnished, they get their image destroyed, and in this whole working, one thing becomes apparent, that CBI is a caged parrot. So this kind of image is really problematic for an investigating agency. Means an investigating agency must be totally neutral and out of any kind of pressure, and it must be totally professional. But when you have a well accepted image that it's a caged parrot, then that thing is most problematic for a investigating agency. But the writer says that a lot of pressures, nobody wants to hear about that. Investigators have no mechanism to air their grievances. A lot of grievances are there. Judiciary is well isolated there. It does not have to respond there, and it is only there listening to these cases and giving their verdicts. But always these investigative agencies, they suffer, and lack of appreciation is there. A lot of hard work they put there, but nobody sees that. It's a good thing, that it's a refreshing thing that a bench of Supreme Court there, Justice A.S. Bopanna and Justice R. Bhanumati, they recently observed that probe agencies such as an ED and CBI needed a free hand to conduct their investigations. And you see, this is the bottom line. If they are free of these pressures, then only they can bring the best investigations there, and all the issues will be solved, because they are much capable, they are much professionals, and their potentials are great. And in this country, many jugaad systems can be there, which can lead to ultimate success there. That's also true. But these pressures, they are most problematic ones, and the bigger problem is there. Governments change, executives changed. So if they change, then the whole working is disturbed, and the kind of drama that we saw last year, that was unprecedented, and nothing destroyed the image of CBI than that particular case. And it looked all political there, and it was all open that the way investigative agencies are feeling this pressure, that is really troublesome, and nothing we can expect as a good thing from their working, because these things are going on. And he talks about the changed times, the kind of economic crimes are there. He said that if you compare this situation with the 80s and 90s, those things were totally direct, and these kind of multi-layered economic crimes and other crimes were not there. Today media is there, social media is there, pressure is enormous from the public, and the pressure from the executive, that also rises with the public pressure there, maybe in a different situation, maybe in a different direction, maybe in a different way, but the pressures are there and they are not able to work professionally there. Recent cases, they are examples here, and you can see, we can name that case. The writer is not naming that case, but we can name that case. The Chidambaram's case is going on, so there the application is there for the bail, and those things were denied, and the problems were there regarding the custodial interrogation. Means Mr. Chidambaram and their lawyers, they said that this thing should not be allowed, and a lot of torture that person has gone through and all, he's responding well and all. But you see that CBI director, former CBI director, says that the custodial interrogation, which is a important issue there, that is demanded from the court, because some facts are not available there, and to get those facts from from that person, and or maybe some persons, those custodial interrogations are actually needed. So the pros and cons must be watched there, and because the main maxim which is followed, like bail is the rule and jail is an exception, means most of the times bails are given, but here the bail was not given, and the custodial interrogation, when it was demanded, then some problems were there, but that was not given. So many questions were raised again, that CBI is working under executive's pressure, but the writer says that to solve these multi-layered economic crimes, we need facts, we need all the scrutinies there, and the maximum information and the knowledge must be there for the case. So this is not always the case that out of pressure we are doing that, and this is all a political vendetta or something like that. We cannot comment on those things, but whatever our working, whatever our professionalism says, that we are doing, and there must not be any kind of hindrances in that. Custodial interrogation. You see, in India, many people, they have died in the past, and a lot of tortures we have seen for the people, and after that political cover-ups were there, authoritative cover-ups were there, and those problems were there, and that's why people are afraid of custodial interrogations. And in a country like India, where a lot of sources are available to tarnish somebody's image, to troll someone, to change the information, to change the facts, to manipulate the facts, then it becomes much more dangerous. But the police custody casts a serious responsibility on the investigating officer. That is also a true thing. That's a different thing, that the handling of these problems may be political. Means if wrong investigation is going on, wrong ways are adopted there, and the tortures, physical tortures are there, and then they are not reported, all the cover-ups are there, that's a different thing. But ideally it is a serious responsibility, and the accountability to the judiciary is also there for civilized treatment of the accused person in the police custody. So these things are relevant here, and these concerns are relevant, and these concerns are genuine, that the writer is raising there. So that's why it is very easy to criticize and accuse police agencies charged with efficient solving, but we do not see whether it is a police department or the CBI or something like that. The control by the executive is well established there, and in their ways, in their rulings and all, these things are well established, and that's why we need to change some laws there. We need to give some autonomy there to these agencies, because it's a must that they remain neutral and out of any kind of political pressure and the bias. Otherwise, the most important cases of the countries, they are given to these bodies, and they can be devastating some families, some people, and some systems there, because if the right process is not adopted, and some political control is there, which is there, we have seen in the past in many cases, and this is well accepted, then things are really problematic. So that case talks about that. So it is important for GS paper 2 here, and the earlier article regarding the Kashmir issue, that is also important for GS paper 2 here. Next, the case of differential global carbon tax. Here, on the basis of facts and the economics of the carbon tax issue and the climate change issue, that is being displayed, and some solutions are given. It's an excellent article. Here the writer talks about a climate change issue. He says that these two people, they say that the IPCC says total global emissions will need to fall by 45% from 2010 levels by 2030. Means we have only 1 decade left to work there, otherwise all things will be lost from our hand, and we will not be able to do anything about the climate change issue, and we will be certainly doomed. So we have 10 years. Whatever we do, this is something we have to do now, and only 10 years we have, and the kind of speed we need today, that is shown by this number, that 45% fall must be there in the next 10 years. Otherwise extreme problems are there for humanity. Global South means, as I explained to you yesterday, that these developing countries, Indonesia, India, South Africa, Brazil, all these countries, they are taken as Global South. That is bearing all the consequences there. Whatever happened in the last 2 centuries, and whatever lifestyle choices were made by the Global North, the developed countries of the Europe and Americas and all. So whatever they did to the climate, that consequence is borne by these Global South countries. Mainly they are located in tropical regions, and the temperatures and the conditions and the devastations by nature and all these things are borne by these Global South countries. So this is a ultimate thing, that the responsibility lie more with developed countries, and still they are polluting the environment way more than any other country. If we see the per capita emissions from India, they are way less than the global average, and the China, US, these countries, their emissions are way above the average. US is way above the average. So the bottom line is that both the worlds need to contribute to avoid this danger in their self-interest, because it is everybody's interest. Today countries are behaving in a way that they are talking about their own national interest, and they do not realize this thing, that this is a global problem. They talk about it, they announce about it, they commit about it, but they do not realize in a practical way that it is a global problem. If any country is a defaulter, then it's a global problem. So all need the collaboration there, and all need the cooperation there. What are the needs where things are stuck? As I explained to you, the issue of CBDR, common but differentiated responsibilities. Because the responsibility lie with Global North countries, they have caused this problem, and still they are causing these problems more and more. So they are the accused here, and they are the culprits here. So certainly the responsibility is bigger for these countries. Now all have to make efforts, but how these developing nations and the least developed countries, how do they make efforts? They need support there. So that's why some mechanism must be evolved there. The carbon trading process is going on, where some allotments are there for the carbon emission, and the countries which are doing lesser emissions, then they can sell their allowances, these carbon credits, to some other country which is polluting a lot. So that thing is going on, but you see, a better mechanism we need to evolve here. Fundamentally we need to change the energy infrastructure. That's a very important solution there. The whole green energy program must be bolstered a lot, and to make this planet a better place to live, we must do that. According to some estimate, 1.5% of the GDPs that these countries must invest in these technologies and in these ways. But the finances, from where they will come, and how to decide about those things? So an important solution is there, that we have the average of this world there. So 68 countries, their emissions are way above this average level, and 135 countries are below that level. Means these 68 countries, they have to compensate, and more the emissions are than the average, more they need to support there, because mainly these are developed countries. And the 135 countries, the distance of their emissions from the average, that would decide their compensation. Means lesser the emissions are, and the gap where it is wider from the average, means if they are doing lesser emissions, then they are far away from the average, so they must be compensated very well. So more compensations will be going towards those less polluting countries. So the average can be a deciding factor there. Currently, the global average of carbon emission is 4.97 metric tons per capita. India's is around 1.73. So we are doing very less emission per capita. So here we have this right to get the maximum compensation there. And the countries like US, China, the case is well discussed here. They must be the top pair countries because their per capita emissions and their total emissions are way above. And the total amount of carbon compensation made by the pair nations, mean these 68 nations, that will be close to $570 billion. Means this much they need to arrange there. So if we see the issue of this responsibility issue, the kind of emissions they are making, then $570 billion they can manage. And there is an issue of global carbon tax that should be taken from all the countries for emissions. But you see, till the time these all issues are not settled, they cannot take this tax from the countries, because developing nations, they won't be able to pay this thing today, because historically it was not done something by them, and today also they are not doing much emissions. Their per capita emissions are very low. So the tax issue, the global carbon tax issue, will be applicable, but before that this issue of average and the compensation issue must be settled. So this can be a great way there. And you see, these countries can pay, because here the estimates show that the universal tax rate will be around $46.1 $46.1 per metric ton, and 1.5% of their GDPs they need to invest there for these technologies. So in the end, the required tax rate for China, they are counting here, that will come down from $46 to $34 per metric tons. So this thing they can easily manage, and this will not be a huge burden on these countries, as they are arguing. They do not want to spend a single penny on developing countries. That's the problem. Otherwise, it's not a huge burden on these countries. And after this this settlement, all will come to a level, and they all will be able to pay these carbon taxes, and then this thing can be easily taken forward. Some countries, France, Sweden, Switzerland, high income countries, but so great countries that they are not doing much emissions. And as I told you, that European countries and these Scandinavian countries mainly, they are following these norms. The civics is very strong there. People are well aware, proper citizens you can call them. And one big issue you may note here, education is a must there. Scholars you will find there in maximum numbers in these countries. Iceland has the maximum number of scholars in this world. Such a small country, and they are not some kind of foolish people. They do not spend unnecessarily on some nonsensical issues, and their dependence on religion or something like that, that is nearly nil. Means the most number of atheist people you will find in Norway, Sweden, and these countries, and these are the best countries in all the indexes. And here there are countries like India, where people will spend money on anything. Election fundings are unimaginably high, and at one side people are dying, kids are dying out of hunger. So you will say that it's a foolish condition there that they are maintaining. And here these countries, their emissions are lower than the average, and they are high income countries, so we must take inspiration there. And this kind of thing is really inspiring. And this Robin Hood tax that they are talking about, that is really justified here, because if we go this way and this compensation is made according to the world average, and the countries who are doing this emission and the per capita emissions are calculated, then we are the biggest beneficiary. And this compensation must reach up to India, so that we can apply all these technologies. Already we are taking many steps there, and our targets regarding the solar energy, wind energy, and all these targets are going on, and we are taking many steps there. So we must be compensated there, and later we will be able to pay good carbon tax there. And this 45% target in the next 10 years, that will be fulfilled only if India like countries, they are compensated well. So that's a justified issue. And you can see in this graph that clearly shows that how when the income level rises, then the emissions rise. And that's why it's a ultimate responsibility of the developed nations. They have enjoyed a lot, their lifestyle and they have laughed at third world countries a lot in the past. Now they must take this responsibility which they have escaped from always, and this is all. So we will discuss all other issues in MCQ lesson, and we will meet again tomorrow. Thanks a lot. Keep watching. It was a bit signing.